Hello, everyone, and welcome to the You in Universe. My name is Jerome Imhoff. I'm a spiritual life coach, and it's my pleasure and my honor to welcome you to our conversation today. As I was preparing for this talk, it just occurred to me that in time and space, this moment will only happen once. And it's just a really beautiful thing to think about, whether you're watching this live or watching it later, this gathering is just a unique opportunity for us. And we have 45 minutes together and we'll never get this time back. And so let's really just make the most of it. And so I will invite you to allow yourself just to be present during this time, free yourself from any distractions so that you can totally enter into our conversation. Before we begin, I'd like to just take a moment to ground us in this space. And I'm using a prayer that Marianne Williamson wrote in her book Illuminata. And if you've ever attended any of her talks, she begins her talks the same way. So I'm making some adaptations. So please place your right hand over your heart, your left hand over your right hand, and close your eyes. And just take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, just release anything, any worries, any anxiety that might be keeping you from being totally present in this moment. Allow yourself to feel grounded in the chair, wherever you happen to be sitting. And take another inhale in. And just remind yourself that your breath is indeed your connection to the divine. When we focus on our breath, we become completely present to the now, to this moment. And the Course in Miracles teaches us that this moment is the holy instant. For this is the time when our time intersects with the time of our source or God, however you perceive that being. We see in the middle of our minds a little ball of golden light. We watch this light grow larger and larger until now it fills the entire inner vision of our minds. We see for ourselves within this light a beautiful temple. We see a body of water that surrounds the temple and a beautiful garden. We see that the inside of this temple is lit as well with a beautiful golden light. And here we are. For we have been gathered together by the power and into the presence of our source, that some of us may call God. We devote the time we spend together to that source. We devote all of our relationships, all of our work to that same source energy that created us. And we ask that God's Holy Spirit would uplift us beyond all fear and illusion, that we might become the men, the women, the people that Source has called us to be. And so it is. Together we all say, Amen. So again, welcome to the You in the Universe. Danielle Laporte, in one of the recent emails I got from her, wrote this. She said, the miracle mindset happens when we take a stand in our divinity. The miracle mindset happens when you take a stand in your divinity. And my intention for this time that we're spending together is that we would together take a stand in our divinity. We're entering a high-speed zone of highly calibrated thought. And right now, what I want you just to think about is, what do you want to change about your current life? And just allow yourself to think about who you are being called to be by the universe. There's always this inner voice in us, the still small voice of God that invites us into God's presence and invites us to be more authentically who we are, knowing that we're already perfect, whole, and complete. There's nothing for us really to change about who we are, but there is this part of us, this light in us that wants to shine more brightly. So take a moment to think about what that calling is for you, and just allow yourself for these 45 minutes to be that person. I'm going to be talking about spiritual concepts, universal principles, and spiritual law. And these are immutable laws, like the law of gravity. That's always at work, whether or not we think about them or even believe in them, right? You don't wake up in the morning and say, you know what, today I think I'm just going to put a pause on my belief in the law of gravity, and then suddenly you float to the ceiling. That doesn't happen. So these universal principles, these universal laws are always at play, whether we acknowledge them or not. But in my conversation, the conversation we're having today, my hope is that you will begin to understand these more completely, and you'll learn how to really apply them in your life. We have a crisis of faith that we collectively share. And our crisis of faith is not that we don't believe, it's that we believe in sort of the wrong thing. We believe in the status quo. And we filter all of our ideas, everything we encounter, through our established state, which is the status quo. There are two ways we can think about things, two sort of overarching organizing thought patterns. One is thinking through the lens of love. And that is our authentic self. That's who we were created to be. We were created to be love. We're love, we're spirit, we're light in a body. And we can see things through love, or we can see things through fear. Fear comes from the ego mind. Love is the only thing, essentially, the Course in Miracles says, at the beginning it talks about, this is a Course in Miracles, and it says, this course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught, but it does aim to make you aware of the obstacles or the blinders to love's existence, and that love is our birthright. And then it says, the opposite of love is fear, but that which is all-encompassing can have no opposite. That's pretty profound to think about. That which is all-encompassing can have no opposite. So the opposite of love is fear, but fear itself is an illusion. However, on this physical plane where we all live, fear is very real to us. Sort of the reminder is that we are not of this plane. And we'll dig into that a little bit more deeply. So as we're beginning this conversation, your ego mind is going to rail against some of these ideas. It's going to want to keep you stuck in the status quo. It's not going to let you, it's going to sort of want you to question these ideas. But I love these two quotes that are on the screen. The first was written by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he was one of the transcendental poets. And a lot of this new thought really began with writers like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. He wrote, there is no planet, sun, or star could hold you if you but knew what you are. And then Shakespeare in the play The Tempest wrote, we are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with the sleep. And for me, that implies that what we're living in this existence is in some ways a mortal hallucination. It is, there's a part of us, the divinity in us, that is more real than the person, the being that we experience on a day-to-day basis. So let me tell you a few truths about who you are and whose you are. You were created in the image and the likeness of your source, of the creator of all that is, of God. And I grew up Roman Catholic, so I still refer to that energy as God, but feel free to think about it in whatever terms you want to think about them in. We are pure light, we are pure love, we are boundless energy, unlimited potential, that for now is focused in the body. And I just heard the other day, and it blew my mind. We have this notion that our spirit dwells in our body. It's actually the opposite. Our body dwells in our spirit and in our soul. And to me, that just made it so overwhelmingly obvious to me that our soul and our spirit is so large. It's so all-encompassing. It's this maximal love that it's so huge. It can't even all fit in my body. One of my favorite lessons in the Course in Miracles is love created me like itself. So we are indeed spirits and souls having a human experience. And we are co-creators with God. We are extensions of the mind of God. The Course in Miracles says we are literally ideas in the mind of God. And an idea never leaves its source. So everything we can say about God could be said about you. The difference is God created you, you didn't create God. But everything else that we can say about God is true. You are literally one with the source that knows all things. Take a moment and breathe that in. You are one with the source that knows all things. These ideas are so profound. And I think sometimes we think, oh, they're just sort of nice little axioms. They're, it's a nice thing to put on a bumper sticker or a magnet on your refrigerator. And we sort of dismiss them out of hand. And the Course says these ideas will have the power in your life, the power that you ascribe to them. So to the extent that you believe they're nice little axioms and magnets on little things to put on a magnet or a bumper sticker of your car, that's the power that it will have in your life. When you step into the reality that this divinity that lives within you is the same divinity, the same source that created the entire universe and beyond, the multiverse, created all that is. That's the power that dwells within you. When you own that power, anything is possible. So, you were created by God so that God could experience God's self in physical form. God is not a physical being. God is energy, God is light, God is pure love. At the beginning of time, that's what existed. And God wanted to experience God's self. And in order to do that, God needed you and God needed me. And God is seeking freer, fuller, more complete, more expansive expression of who God is through you and through me. That's the reason we are here. We are here so that God will know who God is. God needs us to be God's hands and feet. And as we co-create with God, we expand who God is. So you are indeed here by divine appointment, so that God can experience God's self through you. In the movie Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert has this revelation that God dwells in her. She says, God dwells in me as me. And so anytime you're feeling like you're not enough and you're inadequate and maybe you think you've messed up, stop yourself and say, you know what? No. God looked out across this entire void, this huge void, and he said, I need to experience myself as Jerome. So let me create Jerome. Perfect, whole, and complete, so that I can experience who I am through the lens of Jerome. So you're here really for a divine purpose. Now, all of God's children are special, and none of God's children are special. So it's important for us to realize that we indeed are called here for a divine purpose, and so is every other human being. We were born in a state of full perfection, and your purpose of life, and the purpose of life is not for you to be more than you currently are. It's not to get better at anything. Your purpose is to be who you are since the moment you got here, who you were the moment you got here, to be more authentically you. That's your purpose. So let's go back in time. Before any of the earth existed, God existed as a formless substance. And this formless substance is thinking substance. And this formless substance still exists, and it exists all around us. God is literally all around us in this formless substance. And a thought form in this substance produces the form. So all thought creates form on some level. So formless substance, we have an idea, we put that idea into the formless substance, and the formless substance engages in our thoughts. So we are continuously in conversation with this formless substance through our thinking. Thoughts become things. Our thoughts are creating form on some level all of the time. And so as humans, we are a thinking center, but we also have this ability to choose our thoughts. And in choosing our thoughts, we can create what it is we want. And I spoke earlier about this crisis of faith, because indeed, we continue to create the status quo in our lives because that's where our energy and our mind is focused. To the extent that we focus on things like competition, lack of resources, illness, you can name any way that fear shows up in our lives. To the extent that we believe in those things, that life needs to be hard and it's a struggle, and we need to compete with others for a limited resource, like limited resources, that's what we'll experience. And you see evidence of that in your own lives and the lives of other people. And to the extent that you believe that the universe is self-organizing and self-correcting, and that the universe has already been programmed for your well-being, and you don't have to think about how to do it. The acorn is pre-programmed to become an oak tree, right? The embryo knows how to become a baby. You already have within you everything you need to know to be your most authentic self and to live abundantly and prosperously, because that's what the loving thought would be. But as we're putting these thoughts into that formless substance, they become reality. So to the extent that we're thinking thoughts of abundance, that's what we'll experience. And to the extent that we are thinking thoughts of lack, that's what we'll experience. We actually live in a thought world, and it's part of a thinking universe. God is a thinking being, and God is a creator, and God exists completely in, just to create. How did all this happen? God imagined it. God imagined this world. God took God's self, that formless God stuff, imagined the world and spun it into existence. Let's get a little bit scientific about this. This is really interesting. Quantum physics has proven what spiritual thinkers and spiritual teachers have known for a long time. So a moment ago, I was talking about formless substance. Everything is made of the same formless substance. Scientifically, we might call that formless substance atoms. Everything in the world is made of atoms. The chair you're sitting on, the screen of your computer, your body, the air you're breathing, it's all made of the same stuff, which is an atom. Atoms are, if you go back to science, we know that there are kind of three main components to an atom. There's the nucleus, and the nucleus has protons in it, and neutrons, which are neutral. And then there are electrons, which are floating around that nucleus. And those electrons are moving very rapidly. In fact, they're moving so rapidly that they don't really ever have location, right? So you can't say that the electron is in a particular space, this particular place, because it's always moving so quickly. The difference is, quantum physics has proven this, that when an atom is being observed, the electrons then have location. So quantum physics, and I don't understand this on any scientific level, but it blows my mind. Quantum physics has proven that when an atom is being observed, it behaves differently, and that the electrons somehow fall into a pattern, right? The other thing that's really interesting is we experience matter as being solid, but if you were to take this electron that's on the screen and blow it up the size of a football field, you would notice that most of the atom is really empty space. So literally everything is energy because, you know, if you know about the atomic bomb was created by breaking an atom apart and removing all of the energy, releasing all the energy within it. So everything is energy. Your body is energy. Everything is energy. And we live in a vibrational universe. When we think our thoughts, they go out into the universe as vibrations and they affect the matter around us. And that's how thoughts become things. So breathe into this. You are powerful beyond measure. The power that created the entire universe lives within you. And when you can understand and claim this power, you have limitless potential. Nothing at all can separate you from this potential, this divine spark that lives within you. It is the very essence of your being. It is the life force that lives within you. And you cannot be separated from it. We think we have many problems. The only problem that we really need to solve is our belief in our separation from God. And I say it's our belief in our separation because it's not, we can feel like we're separated, but we never are. That love that dwells within us is always there. The power of the universe is what your soul is. And the more we can identify with our soul and our spirit, the more we unlock this limitless potential. We identify as bodies because we identify in this physical plane. So when I identify as my body, I suddenly believe I'm separate from God, I'm separate from other people, I'm separate from the universe. But that's not who we are. We are spirits inhabiting a body. Our current level of understanding spiritual law is not a match for any of us for what our big dream is. We all have a big dream. We all have something we want to do, something more that we're called to. And our level of spiritual law is not a match. Our level of understanding of spiritual law is not a match for that dream because it's not showing up yet. So how do you create more of what you want? You raise your vibration. You start to attract the things into your life that you want by raising your vibration. Because we live in a vibrational universe. You've often heard people talk about law of attraction, which is one of those universal immutable laws. The law of attraction is very powerful, but it's actually a secondary law. The primary law is law of vibration. And it's our vibration then that goes out into the universe and then attracts to us the things we're thinking about, the things that we're a match for. Right now, we're all a match for our current status quo because that's what we're living. And we all want more, whether that is more inspiring relationships, whether that's more prosperity in a monetary sense, whether that's more living into your divine purpose. We all are called for more, which is wonderful because, God is experiencing himself through us. And as we expand, God expands. And so we're called to this expansion. So you will never get to a place where you've arrived. You'll never get to a place where it's all done. From wherever you are, that's the new jumping off point, and you'll expand even further. We all want that expansion. And the way we get to the next level is by raising our vibration. And I'm going to talk right now about how you do that. The first way to tap into this power is a serious spiritual practice. That could show up in your life as daily prayer and meditation. It could be yoga. It could be journaling. It could be creativity, but something you do every day to ground yourself in your authentic being as divinity. The other thing is to live in communion. I say to live in communion with the Holy Spirit. It could be to live in communion with the Shekinah, divine presence, however you define that, but to live in communion with it and to be in awe of it, to wake up every morning and to say, love created me like itself. I am a being of pure light and pure energy and pure love, and that is amazing. And just to be in awe of the nature around you and the fact that you cannot even take a single breath without this divine energy. The breath you breathe, if you know creation stories throughout religious traditions, the Christian Bible talks about God creating Adam and then breathing his own life into him, right? So the very breath you breathe is God's spirit. Respiration and spirit, same roots, right? So waking up every morning and putting yourself in just presence of that and divine, just the awe of all of that is great. Cultivating a namaste consciousness. That means walking through the world and seeing every person you encounter as an extension of yourself and as a sacred person. Namaste means the sacred in me bows to the sacred in you. It's the recognition of that place where you and I are one. And then the last thing is relating to the divine by a feeling of profound gratitude. There are 3 levels of gratitude. The first level is gratitude if. And we experience this level of gratitude when we have circumstances, like for instance, the most easy way of describing this is, you look in your checking account and there's not enough money and you have to pay rent, right? And so you do what you do and you manifest the money, and now you have enough money to pay the rent, and so you have gratitude, a feeling of relief that the money showed up. That's gratitude if. That's the lowest level of gratitude. The second level is gratitude for. And this is what we do when we, do a gratitude practice at the end of our day. Maybe we keep a gratitude journal and we think, I'm so grateful for my spouse. I'm grateful for my job. I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful for living in a beautiful city. So grateful for. That's a higher level of gratitude because it's like looking out around the world and being grateful for the things that you have. The last level, the highest level of gratitude is gratitude in, and this is honoring the presence of the divine in all things and being grateful even when the external circumstances of our life would contradict gratitude. It's being grateful before your circumstances change, before anything in your life changes, to still be in a place of gratitude. Neil Donald Walsh, in one of his talks, said, nothing in your life is going wrong right now, nor has it ever gone wrong. And he said that your circumstances were perfectly designed to call forth opportunity. And as I was hearing that, I was thinking about this concept of gratitude in, which I learned from one of my mentors. So if you see the circumstances in your life and they're not what you'd want to have them be, being grateful in those circumstances is to say, you know what, this is an opportunity. And Neil Donald Walsh even gave this prayer, and you would say to yourself, thank you, oh God, for this one more chance to announce and declare, to express, to fulfill, to become, and to demonstrate who I really am. So in that moment of, everything in your life is just a mess, and you're feeling like, God, I know you're here, but I just don't feel you. And I feel lost. Just to say, thank you, God, for this one more chance to announce and to declare, to express, to fulfill, to become, and to demonstrate who I really am. Because in any circumstance, we have the power of the universe to lift us above and beyond those circumstances. One of my personal mantras is trust, surrender, believe, receive. So throughout my day, when I'm feeling that I'm not completely aligned with my source, I'll stop myself and I'll say, trust. Trust that that power is in me. And sometimes I'll just breathe, I'll close my eyes and I'll just breathe. And be present, go back to the breath, right? Surrender. I don't have to figure anything out. The universe is already programmed for my well-being. I just need to surrender and allow it to show up. We don't have to make anything happen. We allow its presence. I don't have to go out and create my divine purpose. It's already there. I just need to allow it in. Sometimes it's just a matter of breathing and opening your hands and just saying, miracle, find me now. And believing that it's going to show up. God knows what you need. God knows how much your rent is. God knows that you desire loving, compassionate, passionate relationships. There's a scripture in the Christian Bible that says, seek first the kingdom of heaven. Seek first love. And all these things shall be added unto you. So when we first align ourselves with love, with the you that we are in the universe, we will receive everything that we need, everything that we desire. So, what if it were true that faith can really move mountains? What if it were true that you could create your heart's desire? What if it were true that you are already evolved, that you're already perfect, whole, and complete? What if it were true that wanting what you have really leads to having what you want? What if you already have the power to manifest your brilliance? My coaching practice is called Manifesting Brilliance because I love words. And we think of manifesting oftentimes as, you know, like manifesting something that doesn't exist. I want a new car, so I manifest it. The word manifest actually means to bring into presence, to bring into awareness something that's already there. And brilliance, you know, that part, that's who you are. That divinity in you is brilliant. It shines like a diamond. Shines like a diamond in the sun, on the water. There's a great song that I love, and one of the lyrics is, I will dare to shine like diamonds on the water. And one of the last things I will share is this notion of be times do equals have. So everything I've been talking about is really having your awareness in who you are, that you're divinity. And when we start from that place of being divine energy in this body, and we multiply that by our action. So I show up as myself. I show up knowing that I am divine, that I am holy. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. And then I multiply that by my action. The result is having everything that I hope to have. And so one of my other favorite lessons in the course is there is nothing your holiness cannot do. And that's 100% true. There is nothing that your holiness cannot do. So with that, I would be happy to take any questions or comments or anything that anyone might have, if at all. And I'm going to stop the share and come back to the main. Okay. Well, I have 10 more minutes, which is awesome. So let me just share a couple of other things. So talking about this Namaste consciousness. And I'm a student of Course in Miracles. And so my whole, that's been my spiritual path. I mentioned that I grew up Roman Catholic. And I then discovered A Course in Miracles. And this is sort of how it came about. Let me share a little bit about my story. So these principles that I talk about, they seem sort of it's sometimes hard to really be grounded in them. And sometimes it's, like I said, they're these great ideas, but how do they come into practice? So after college, my first job out of college was being a music teacher for a Catholic school. which I loved. I loved this job, and I felt like it was going to be where I would retire from. I was married to a woman, even though I knew I was a gay man. I felt like I needed to do that. Being a good Catholic boy meant you get married, and I was living in Western South Dakota. Teaching at this school, great place to work, loved it, felt like a family. And in 2000, 5 years into my career, my wife and she decided she didn't want to be married anymore. And so we were going through a divorce. She also worked at the school, so it was this big, like everyone knew us. There were hundreds of people at our wedding. And so we were going through a divorce. And at the same time, because I'd been seen at a place that was frequented by gay men, my sexual orientation came into question. And again, I have to be honest, I was not living my authentic life. I didn't feel like I could be who I truly was. So we're going through this divorce. It's the middle of the middle of the school year. I'm called into the superintendent's office. An anonymous letter is presented to me that was written by a father of one of the parents, or of one of my students, saying that, Jerome's been seen at this place. We suspect he's gay. He needs to be removed from his teaching post. And so school board met, and I was removed from my teaching post. And I went through this identity crisis because I allowed myself to be wrapped up entirely in that life. I was this teacher at this Catholic school. That's who I was. That was my identity. And all of that sort of fell apart. I was losing my marriage, was losing this teaching job I loved. And I remember a moment of just profound clarity and just connection with God, sitting on the sofa in my living room in South Dakota and declaring out loud. I declared it out loud. It's like, God, I do not know how this is going to happen. I do not know how this is going to happen, but from this moment forward, I'm claiming for myself a beautiful life. I know that there's more to me than this job. I know that there's more to me than the things that people are saying about me because I'm a gay man. Growing up in the church as a gay man, there was a lot of stuff to deal with. And I just knew. And I knew, God, I know what the Roman Catholic Church teaches. I know what the Christians teach about being gay. I know what they teach, and I've read it in the Bible. I know these things. But I know you, God. And I know that this voice inside of me, the still small voice, is saying to me over and over every day, Jerome, you're okay. I love you. I love you completely. There's nothing you could do. And in fact, I created you to be who you are. And so I remember declaring out loud, I'm going to have a beautiful life. And that led me to coming out to my family and my friends and moving from South Dakota to California, to doing the work I'm doing, helping people transform their lives and their careers. And that came from deep within me. It wasn't that somebody told me, oh, you need to do this. I knew that that's what I needed to do. It was like the Spirit of God spoke within me and said, this is just a hiccup. And in fact, you're going to look back on this time in your life and you're going to think about it as being one of the most beautiful times of your life. And indeed it has been. And so these things I talk about are the things that I've experienced, and and it just blows my mind. I love just to think about how deeply this universe loves me and all of the circumstances in my life. I've been through just some really crazy things. We all have, and we all have heartache, and we all experience loss. 2 days ago, my beloved Boston Terrier died in my arms. So I'm in that place today. That happened on early Friday morning. And yet, whatever it is, whatever you're going through, you cannot be separated from the love of God. This divine spark in you, it's so profound. It's 100% who you are. So in the morning when I get up, I have a meditation practice, and we're talking about, serious spiritual practice. I meditate for 20 minutes, transcendental meditation. Then I go to the Course in Miracles, and I read the lesson for the day. And I spend 5 minutes with that lesson or whatever, so that I'm grounding myself in these spiritual concepts as I begin my day. And then there's one prayer that I always say, and this is from the Course. And it goes, "Oh God, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom?" So I start out my day spreading my love out into the world and saying, "Okay, God, send me the people I need. Send me to the people who need me. And use me. Use me. Help me to show up as your hands and feet." And so I would offer you that. And as we're wrapping up, I just want to share with you a poem that I love. This is from a book called Seasons of Your Hearts, and it was written by Macrina Wiederkehr, and she is a Benedictine nun. She's written several books, and this one is called Seasons of Your Heart, and I think it really sums up what I've been sharing with you. So if you would just close your eyes, and again, just allow yourself to enter into the presence of God. And I find it really interesting that we think that we have to enter into God's presence, because we don't have to enter into the presence. We already are in God's presence. We're already in the presence of that source energy. It is who you are. You can't separate yourself from it. And she writes, "I am touched to the core with a presence I cannot explain. A loving plan enfolds me. Someone is always believing in me, calling me forth, calling me on. I am standing in grace, filled with mystery, touched with the eternal. I cannot get away from goodness. I think we name you God. You surround me like a gentle breeze. My idols live on in my life. My inconsistent values stay. My immaturity walks beside me. My imperfection is ever before me. But your love for me stays the same. I tremble in the face of such graciousness. Your reverence for me astounds me. You breathe out hope, and I catch on." So thank you so much for being here with me, for your attention, for allowing me to share these thoughts with you. Thank you for the presence that you are out in the world, and for just the glorious being that I know you are. And with that, I will say God bless, and go now in peace. There are angels in front of you, angels behind you, angels above you, angels below you, angels to your right and to your left. You do not walk alone. Bye-bye.